The Bible never explicitly says that we can't drink, but what it does say is that there are consequences for drinking. And depending on the kind of person that you want to be, the kind of person that God is calling you to be, it may not necessarily be something you're supposed to be taking part in. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dami and I'm a faith-based content creator. And for those of y'all who are new here, welcome. It's so good to have you here. And for those of y'all who already know me, then welcome back. But yeah, we're back and I am super happy to be here, but even more excited to be talking about the topic for today, which is sobriety. So first and foremost, I wanted to give y'all some context about my personal struggles with alcohol and what that used to look like in my lifestyle, because by now you probably did the math and you're like, she's only 20 years old. What does she mean she was drinking? Well, I was living a completely different life, y'all. Okay, don't judge me. I really don't feel like I have to go as in depth with that. Y'all can kind of paint that picture in your head, what I was like my freshman year, thinking that partying was cool or whatever. But the part I really want to emphasize within my story was the fact that God was always around. So along with me, partying and living this worldly lifestyle, I still had a relationship with God. Like, I knew of God. I had been raised in the church. I had the Holy Spirit filled in me before, but I was still trying to live this life that I thought was the way. But even though some time has passed, I still remember like vividly how I felt during those times when, I was so unapologetically living in the world. I was drained literally all the time, so exhausted from literally taking on two contradicting lifestyles. I was so unfulfilled. I was always searching for the next high, searching for that next rush of dopamine. And I was always wondering, like, is this it? Like, I'm doing all the things that people glamorize. I'm drinking, I'm wearing the clothes, I'm going to the parties, but I still don't feel content within me. And even more than that, I felt like I was genuinely wrestling against something within me. And that had to be the Holy Spirit. It had to be the little convictions that, prove that God was still within me, and God had not left me. Because the act of drinking, like, first of all, the taste of alcohol was absolutely disgusting to me. I hated waking up the next day and feeling hungover, feeling like I just couldn't do anything and like I'd waste the entire day. I hated the way I looked, because if y'all don't know, alcohol can actually make you gain weight. I was always bloated, and like the decisions I would make when, I'd be drunk or like I'd be intoxicated, I'd always have to answer to that the next day. And like, it was the worst feeling in the world. So it was really like, why am I trying so hard to maintain this lifestyle that deep down, and even if it was real deep, y'all, it was there, that deep down I didn't want? Like, why am I fighting so hard to keep this? There's a beautiful passage in Romans that I want to share with you guys where Paul perfectly describes this idea that we all really struggle with, even if it's not with alcohol, but being so overpowered by the sin that lives within us, by our wicked natures. And this passage comes out of Romans 7, and he says, "For I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my flesh. For the desire to do what is good is with me, but there is no ability to do it. For I do not do the good that I want to do, but I practice the evil that I do not want to do. Now, if I do what I do not want, I am no longer the one that does it, but it is the sin that lives in me." So going back to my story a little bit, just as that passage described, I got real self-aware of the fact that drinking in my situation was wrong. I had tried to twist it as best as I could. I tried to say like, God, I'm only doing it on occasion, or I'm only doing it once a semester. But he kept making it very, very clear that no, this is not for you. So eventually I said a prayer of submission. I said, God, I can't even enjoy it anymore. Even when I do go to the parties, I'm feeling the conviction. Even when I'm drinking, I'm waking up the next day and feeling so shameful because now I'm sober minded and aware of the fact that I just sinned against you again. So God, here I am. And it wasn't even that like I had committed to anything where like I said, I'm never going to drink again, or I'm completely done, or whatever the case may be. It was no like hard commitment, no restriction or anything like that. It was simply, God, I'm inviting you into my life because I can't do this alone. I'm inviting you to help me solve this problem. But here I am an entire year later with a completely different heart posture towards the things that I used to struggle with. So if you're also someone who is struggling right now with this specific conviction of whether or not you need to lay down the drinking, you need to lay down the outside life and give this aspect of your life to God, there are a few things that I wanted to leave you with today. First of all, I want to ask you a simple question. Can you really and truly say that you have found fulfillment with drinking being a part of your lifestyle? I mean, are you really content with the choices that you make when you drink, with the act of drinking, with how much money you spend on open tabs and on bottles and the decisions that you choose to make before and after. Is this really bringing you satisfaction? Because otherwise, is it worth delaying your destiny that is going to be so much more rewarding? Because think about it, every time that you're hungover and you have to waste an entire day recovering, that's time you're wasting that you could be putting towards your goals, putting that energy elsewhere. And that brings me to my second question. Are you truly content with where you are in life? Because sometimes we can use alcohol as a form of escape. I know for me, for a very long time, alcohol, along with lust and along with binging, so many different other things in my life that I was using as a way to escape the discomfort that I felt within myself. I remember during some of the deepest and darkest times, it was easier and it felt a lot better drinking and getting drunk, getting wasted for an entire night, forgetting all my problems, versus having to sit with myself and sit in the reality of the fact that my life was awful. So is that what drinking is for you? Is it a temporary band-aid to kind of distract you from your problems and help you find a little bit of pleasure, even if it's fleeting? And there's absolutely no shame if that's what it is. But I'd like to think that if you clicked on the video for today, there is at least some sort of conviction that God may be telling you this isn't something that he wants you to be partaking in anymore. And I mean, the only thing you can do in those moments is question, why am I fighting so hard to keep it? Why don't I want to let go of alcohol? Is it the fear of being judged by others, since it is so normalized in our society and, in our teenage culture? I know a lot of times people always ask me, like, do you just not drink because of religious purposes? And my answer is always no. And the reason why is because the Bible never explicitly says that we can't drink. But what it does say is that there are consequences for drinking. And depending on the kind of person that you want to be, the kind of person that God is calling you to be, it may not necessarily be something you're supposed to be taking part in. So please understand that you choosing not to drink is in no way a form of restriction or like an obligation by God. We do not have a legalistic faith, and God is in no way forcing you not to drink. It's more about heart posture and getting in alignment with what God's will is for you, which leads me to my last and final question. Who do you really want to be? Who do you believe yourself to already be? Do you see yourself as God sees you, where you're a queen or a king for that matter of the high most? Do you see yourself as worthy of taking care of your temple, taking care of the gift that God has given you, being very vigilant of what you're allowing in your body? Do you want to be set apart and not as easily conforming to the ways of the world, not following the trend or what other people think is popular? And do you truly understand the calling on your life and your position as a Christian, where other people will be watching you, which is why it's even more important to be sober-minded and to be vigilant? Regardless of what you choose to do, I encourage you to really sit down and ask yourself these questions, to remember your position as a daughter or a king of the Most High, but more importantly, get in your word and see what God has to say about this. And on that note, I do want to share a final passage with you guys, which comes from Proverbs 31. And I know we all know this verse is popular, or like this passage is popular for teaching us how we should be as women of God, but these verses also offer a powerful perspective about drinking and about alcohol too. So these are the words from King Lemuel that says, "It is not for kings, Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to desire beer. Otherwise he will drink, forget what is decreed, and pervert justice for all the oppressed. Give beer to the one who is dying, and wine to the one whose life is bitter. Let him drink so that he can forget his poverty and remember his troubles no more." So I won't spend too long digesting those beautiful, beautiful words, but I do want to leave you with this piece of lasting encouragement. I know sometimes it's hard to remember, but God's conviction truly is a privilege. And when we feel him coming after our hearts, coming for a specific area in our lives, the least we can do is have an honest conversation with him. So I encourage you, spend some time in your word today and spend some time with God, and just be real. He's not looking for you to be polished. He's not looking for you to let go of anything. He just wants you to come to him and to be honest. Stop fighting so hard against that good that is within you, even if it's deep, deep, deep down, it's there. That is God's love and protection for you. His conviction is a privilege, so never forget that. So spend some time in your word today, spend some time in prayer, and just be honest. That is all I have for you guys today. I hope you found some encouragement in today's video, but also let me know how I can pray for you. So in the description below, there's a confidential form that you can fill out where you can submit a prayer request and I will pray for you. So if you feel led to do so, fill that form out and I will spend some intentional time this week in prayer for you. But that is all I have for you guys, and I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next time.